Yeah, I had an experience yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, I had a NUUU session about 11 o'clock. I had an experience. It was ever so quick, but it was wonderful. And I was well, when I enjoyed the experience. I was on a boat. I was like on a yeah. I was just like I wasn't sailing. I was just like floating on a boat. Yeah, I was just drifting, and it was amazing. Really, it was like there was a breeze, and there was a massive sun, massive, in the distance. And I wasn't doing it on the boat. I was just like sitting back, lying back, and I could hear like Ava singing the new sound. That's what it sounded like to me. So it was like it's kind of like I was in like. It seemed to me that it just went on and on. But by the way the sound was coming across, it was like I was in like a contained space. It was just amazing, and I floated up, and I was just floated up underneath the sun, and the sky was beautiful. It was like the brightest blue I'd ever seen. It was amazing. The blue was amazing, and the sun was huge, and I floated underneath, just directly underneath the sun, and the sea and everything that was gold. The sea was gold, and well, the water. I don't know if it was the sea, but it was water, and it was all gold, and it was really gentle, and there was a beautiful breeze, and I just sailed underneath this huge sun, and that was it. And I was just underneath the sun, and I could see the sky, and I could see the sun. It was like it was within touching distance, but I didn't touch it. That's how close I was to it, and it was huge. It was just huge, and yeah, and it was the new sound, but it was like I say, it was strange because from the eye, from the perspective of the eye, it's like the place just went on and on. But with the sound, it was like I could have been it was like I was like in a contained place, because it was beautiful, and it was constant, and it didn't start with sound. But obviously, as I was floating through the water, because I was like, oh, what's this? This is nice. And then the next minute, the new sound started, and then I was underneath the sun, and that was it. That's how it ended.
This was a dream that I had on the 17th of September, actually, coming as it did on the 59th anniversary of my first day at work. Maybe this experience was telling me it's time for a change. I was yet again driving my present car, this time going into the centre of our hometown. Suddenly I realised I could go no further in the car, as I was confronted by a seething mass of people at what appeared to be a funeral. It looked as though the whole town was there. I found myself, now on foot, working my way through the crowds and wondering who on earth it could be for to generate an almost state funeral. At some point I found myself seemingly at home on the ground floor when a door opened and a woman entered, laden with carrier bags containing what appeared to be party time items, such as bags of cakes, large bottles of fizzy drinks, and so on. Maybe she was taking them to the wake. She was apparently my wife in this experience, but bore no resemblance to my wife Gwen in the present physical lifetime whatsoever. She looked as though she was in her mid-40s and wore a matching grey jacket and skirt, and altogether had a rather professional, perhaps lawyer type look about her. She seemed pleasant enough. I felt rather embarrassed at having to ask her whose funeral it was going on in the town, feeling I was probably the only person in the world who didn't know. Before she answered, I found myself back in the crowds in town again. She was still with me, and we made our way through the melee up to what appeared to be the hearse. It was not a modern car type, but looked more like a rather simple open-sided trailer, rather like the ones that used to be pulled by horses, but less elaborate, and in fact rather cheap and basic looking. No horses were apparent. Indeed, there wasn't even a coffin, but just a rather shriveled up looking little man, not even on his back, but rather twisted round to one side with his knees drawn up. It seemed totally incongruous with the size and enthusiasm of the crowds. There was no evidence of malice or hatred towards the corpse, more a feeling of masses of people wishing to pay their respects. Next, we appeared to be to one side of the crowds, and by now I had magically acquired a pram with a small baby in it. I think you call these baby carriages in America, large four-wheeled things for transporting very young offspring about. The wife figure then moved off and disappeared into a nearby building. Perhaps it was her place of work. I felt I'd really been left holding the baby, but then found myself listening to a smartly dressed middle-aged man. We seemed to be standing next to the corner of a large table in the street. Presumably the wake was or was about to be held there. I only saw the man in profile, but looking back, he greatly reminded me of pictures I have seen of Paul Twitchell, the physical incarnation of one of the real universal guides. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear or remember on waking what he had to say, but he seemed to be smiling as he spoke. I turned to see the wife figure had returned and was standing by my side, smiling at me also. And on that very pleasant note, the dream ended. I believe I mentioned in the past how it is often easy enough to see where some of your dream images come from, usually events or even emotive words or names experienced in the waking state within the previous day or so. I tend to think of these as the building blocks and guess that the real guides make use of these images already in your mind to put together their messages for you. This in no way belittles or dilutes their importance. In this case, it is easy to see what provided the scenario and also the image of the corpse. Before going to bed that night, I had just been watching a program about a particularly sick young English moron who had shot dead a man and his son and then gone on to similarly take out two unarmed young policewomen in an act of unbelievable cowardice, blasting 32 bullets into them at point blank range. We were shown the huge funeral of the girls with thousands of policemen and women from all over the country in attendance. At the end of the program, the commentator told us that the young murderer was given a whole of life sentence with no hope of parole, and he would no doubt end his days in prison a shriveled up old man. As to the meaning of the dream, as it was one continuous one rather than a three-actor, as it were, there was obviously no way of finding a common theme in separate, distinct parts. As to the presence or possible presence of real universal guides, the Paul Twitchell look-alike sticks out a mile, of course. If it really was him, it is the first time I can remember actually recognising one of the guides from the pictures on Duane's books in any of my dreams, though I'm sure, and Duane has many times confirmed, that they have put in plenty of appearances in disguise, or of course have been other guides I've not seen pictures of. I think the wife figure may well have been one of these possibilities. I felt this particularly at the end of the dream, with both of them together and the wonderful vibes I was getting. The dream itself's overall suggestion to me was of an ending and a new beginning, this latter symbolised by the baby, and that despite what's coming in the world, things will in the end get better, and as always the real guides will be there to help me through it, for which they have my unending gratitude. And that's the end of my work for tonight. Over to you, Duane, please.
No, that's fine, Peter. It's very simple, and how you see it is fine. Yes, yeah. So, and I'm sure it was Paul. So, and you got into your real awareness and the little self here. It's not always easy to bring it back, but very good. Thank you.